All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this afternoon session. My name is Tisha Ray, and I'm a K-12 sorry, equity, anti-racism, and anti-oppression coach in the TDSB. Most of my teaching career has been in the early years in Scarborough.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lorraine Valentine. I'm also an equity, anti-racism, anti-oppression coach. And I'm an educator. I've spent most of my career working in the intermediate division, primarily in Scarborough.
On behalf of the team, we will be facilitating the session with you all this afternoon, so let's begin. So we acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. This meeting place is the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. We recognize the historical and existing power dynamics between settlers and Indigenous peoples, as well as the obligation of settlers to redress it. We also recognize not all peoples were brought to Turtle Island willingly. We acknowledge the dehumanizing legacy of slavery and indentured labor. We can continue to disrupt this legacy by working collectively towards justice and liberation. We recognize that Indigenous sovereignty and the right to self-determination demands that we continue to work alongside Indigenous communities towards a necessary probe into truth and reconciliation, and that we take this up in our everyday lives. There cannot be reconciliation without truth. To better understand anti-Indigenous racism and Indigenous education, we encourage you to connect with our partners at the Urban Indigenous Education Center. We will have a link to the UIEC at the end of the slide deck so that you're able to connect with your community support workers for the link.
Okay. Thank you. And one of the things that we also wanted to do was honor and remember Justice Murray Sinclair. So he was a former member of Canada's Senate, and he was a leading legal scholar and one of Canada's first Indigenous judges. He fulfilled an instrumental role as the chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, the TRC, which documented the legacy and personal experiences of the residential school system and tabled 94 calls to action for reconciliation between Indigenous people and Canada. He will remain a profoundly important figure in our collective journey towards fulfilling the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, working passionately and tirelessly to advance the rights of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. At the Toronto District School Board, we will continue to strive to live up to Murray Sinclair's legacy through championing Indigenous rights, justice, and truth. So before we begin, we just wanted to remind everyone of the features that you can access during this session. We do have some very interactive parts, so we'd love to hear from you. So if you are able to do so, you can use the chat to ask questions, or you can also unmute or even use the raise hand feature just to let us know you have a question or a comment that you'd like to share. And moving on to the next. So when we facilitate sessions such as these, we do find it useful to have learning goals as a way to share what we will collectively work on during our conversations. So on your screen, you'll see the goals. So the first one is to explore ways that parents and caregivers can build and maintain important partnerships with their child or children and educators and school staff. We will present strategies to facilitate parent and caregiver engagement. And then finally, we'll explore ways to help parents and caregivers navigate the school system. And the reason why we're doing this is because the partnership between parents and caregivers is really integral to students' overall success and well-being. And it's really to work towards inclusive spaces for all students, families, and communities within the TDSB. So next, we'll just share our agenda, just so you know how this session will unfold. So we finished with our introduction, land acknowledgement, and learning goals, and we'll have a meet and greet. And then following that, we'll look at the benefits of working in partnership and then ways to work in partnership. And we'll discuss some scenarios, and then we'll finish off sharing some resources. Okay, so here is our first activity, which is our meet and greet. So we'd like you to, and we want to just take some time to build a small community. I know there's a small group of us, so a small community here. So we'd like you to look at the pictures that are on the screen, and which one would you say best describes your experience in the education system so far? So this could be based on your own experience, or it could be like your own experience as a child in the system. It could be yours raising someone in the system. And if none of these describe your experience, you can feel free to unmute and add your own. So if you take a moment to look, and then you can unmute or just
Add
write
it
in
to
the
the
chat.
chat.
Yeah. Anyone willing to share? I'll give you a moment and then I'll share one as well. Okay, so for me, I would say, for example, number 4, because I know for me, there's been times where I felt alone, kind of trying to navigate or wasn't sure which direction to go in. So it kind of felt isolating at times. So I think that would be where I would share that I've experienced that just throughout my own educational journey. Neil or Keisha, hopefully I'm not missing anyone else. Neil or Keisha, are you interested in sharing or okay to share? No?
Okay,
Okay, that's okay.
that's okay.
There's the right to pass as well.
Right? So, as this session is all about relationships between home and school, the first question we would like to think about and respond to is, what are some of the benefits of working in partnership with your child or children's school? So please share your ideas in the chat, or you can unmute. Since it's such a small group of us, we can unmute and just have a brief discussion.
And Tisha, sorry, I just let someone in, so maybe if we can repeat the question just in case they missed it.
Well, for sure. As we begin, we're just thinking about what are some of the benefits of working in partnership with your child or children's school? Okay. So maybe we can just go through a few. Oh,
Hello.
hi, Jeanette.
Oh, hi. This is Jeanette here. So yeah, some of the benefits of working in partnership with, um, our children's school, definitely understanding what is happening at the schools, not just the education that our children are having, but seeing the relationships between the children, how they're interacting with one another, how the teachers are responding to the children's needs, to the questions that they're asking. I started volunteering for pizza days and just seeing the challenges that the teachers are facing, how they're responding when a child is emotionally dysregulated. And yeah, just having that awareness, seeing where they might need supports, and then being able to ask the question of how can we as parents support and get involved as well.
Thank you for that, Jeanette. I really like that you talked about getting involved as a parent and being aware of the importance of building relationships and rapport with your child or children's school. I think that is key when we think about how important it is for us to understand what is happening at school and how we can even support in at home and as well as school. So there's that building of partnership and relationship. So I think I'm just gonna go here. So one of the reasons why we ask this question is because you as parents and caregivers play a vital role in your child's education. Really, you are your child's first teacher in their journey of learning and that exploration and discovery. So we wanted to honor and acknowledge this. In addition to some of the amazing ideas that I think you highlighted, Jeanette, um, here are some other key points. So your children get to see that you and staff members are communicating and working together. It keeps you up to date with what's happening in school-wide events. Like pizza days are huge in most of the schools that I know Lorraine and I support, as well as even with my own child. It provides an opportunity for you to receive feedback about your child's progress and daily events. And it also allows you to have a voice in terms of thinking about the school's goals and school council. And definitely it opens the lines of communication between you and the school, and it makes it easier for teachers and educators to communicate, any concerns and establish any rapport. And also it builds trust and allows you to create a network among the parent community. So I think that's really huge, especially thinking about how school is such a vital part to our students' lives, that thinking about how you're able to engage and get to know the other parents in the community as well. So, as an important part of exercising your power is done through relationship building. So there is creating between homeschool and the community. In particular, Abdi Mohammed shares his recommendations to strengthen educator and caregiver partnerships. So, to provide some context about Abdi Mohammed, and he has since passed away. Abdi was Somalian born, and he came to Canada in 1991. His family followed in 1992. Abdi was a school teacher and a basketball player for the Somali national team. He lived in the Lawrence Heights area and had 6 children who went through the TDSB school system. So we're going to just watch a short clip where he talks about the recommendations to continue to build community between parents and caregivers and the school.
And sorry, I just wanted to add, just as you watch, if you can just think of some of the ways that you have or might already begin to work in partnerships with your child's school as well to build those relationships.
What do we mean? What do we as parents need from you, teachers, so that our kids are successful? From my experience, it is simple as a parent with 6 children. As parents, we need you to call home when our children do poorly on a test or are struggling with schoolwork so we can help you. As parents, we need you to call home when our children do something well. A teacher's call should not always be about a problem. As parents, we need you to believe that our children can do it and to smile and welcome them every day. As parents, we need you to invite us into the school and make us feel like it is our school also, as parents. As parents, we need you to give us, our children, second and sometimes third chances to prove themselves successful. After all, for many of us adults, life is about second chances. As parents, we need you to offer our children activities outside of a class that allow them to get to know you in a different role, like sports teams, chess clubs, and breakfast clubs also in the mornings. As parents, we need you to recognize that our families come from different places around the world, and we may need your help to understand how TDSB schools work. And finally, as parents, we need you to be the one caring adult that turns on the light in our children's minds and help them to discover their hidden talents.
Thank you for watching. So I really like the fact that Abdi Mohammed talked about the importance of getting involved. Jeanette, you also highlighted the importance of getting involved in extracurricular activities. And I also love that he highlighted the importance of connecting beyond when there's a problem, but also looking at the positive. We also know that many parents and caregivers are already doing wonderful things in terms of forming relationships, like I'm sure many of you are. So we would love to hear your thoughts about how you are or how you might work in partnership with your children's school to build relationships. So that we're sharing so that some of your ideas may inspire others or just serve as a reminder of all the ways in which we as caregivers and parents can continue to be involved in the day-to-day school activities. So please feel free, as a small group of us, to unmute and just share how you might continue to build or work in partnership.
Hi, my name is Neil. I try to contact my daughter's class teachers, and I talk to principal. Now I got involved in their parent council. I try to participate. I let them know that if they needs any help, so that they can call me or they can email me. And also, if I need anything, I just talk to them. Yeah, everything is not the this is not the perfect world. There is so many things, not everybody is the same. So yes, on paper everything looks perfect, but when we even every relationship, it's not only that parent, caregiver, or teachers or a student, it works according to the book. No, it doesn't. We judge people. Let's say I noticed that a lot of teachers actually didn't even willing to talk to initially with me. I have to be forced them to talk to me. I have to draw their attention to talk to me. Yes, they'll give me 2 minutes, then they're busy, there's this, and they beating around the bushes rather than answering my plain simple question. So yes, we have those things, but it's our kids. We have to be persistent, we have to be focused on our job. uh, that okay, if you're not getting this kind of help, you have to keep on contacting or knocking those door. If you have to knock that class teacher's door first, try
Mhm.
your best. But yes, obviously don't cross our limits or civility or anything. So we
Mhm.
have to have civil when you're maintaining any kind of relationship. After that, if you're not hearing them, then talk to the principal. Even if you're not happy, yes, sometimes you know what? It doesn't matter. Then we got frustrated, and there is a lot of avoidant practice there that we notice that it will discourage you. But it's our kid. Those things shouldn't jeopardize our thought. So let's. If you're not getting then trustee, or you know what? Even we had a trustee in the past. I don't know talk about it. During the COVID, I emailed him. I not a heard back from him, not a single time. I saw him when he was in the school. When I approached him, he just disappeared. So, and now he's holding his better office. System is the same. So yes, sometimes the system is deaf. Nobody will listen to you. So try to talk to your other parents, build some alliance, make friends, and share your experiences if I'm having this issue or something. So build a network. That's the thing. That's how I'll say. And I know that I'm living in a neighborhood. I'll say nowadays I notice that probably 50% of new immigrant, and they're really lost. And there is TDSB doesn't have any tools. Yes, there is so many tools translating in the wrong native languages. I noticed that even uh, the some of the flyer is not translated properly. It even confuses you even more. But anyway, so that new immigrant having difficulties to explore their option, and their education system and Canadian TDSB education system totally different. So there's a lot of ownership from the parent side. In back home, probably, I don't know, probably in some country, you have to just send your kid, you need not to worry about, and then they'll inject all the knowledge, and here you go. You have an educated child. Probably that's not the system in Canada. I have no idea. But anyway, so in that case, talk to your other parents, how they think. Just talk to them. I think if you ask the question, yes, initially a lot of people may avoid you, or probably they are not that friendly initially, but it's your child. When you are in need help, desperate head, and you have to go in desperate situation, so find out. I think obviously you will see one or two parents who is willing to help you. Let's say if any parents contact me, I try my level best to help them. Even if the kids is willing to help, my kids also do the same thing. If they needs help, she's willing to help. So contact your peers or your fellow parents and share the experiences. I think you'll find out some way. And I notice it, yes. If you contact them, at least some of them will try. Not all of them. Some of them will try, and some of them will say that it's above my pay grade. Actually, when I hear that it's above my pay grade, it just bothers me. It's just showing one way to showing that that person is not willing to help. So if somebody says you above is above my pay grade, just try to find alternatives.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I can tell you that. Thank you.
Neil, you have filled us with so many gems. I wrote down so many things that you said, and I so appreciate your voice in this space sharing. I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to highlight a few things that I heard you say. Definitely the networking, and I think that is so important, because to your point, sometimes you might be the one who's, the voice who's helping other communities who maybe, or other people in your school space who maybe don't want to engage with whoever it is in the school system, or don't feel that they have the wording, but then through those networks, maybe it's you that they're connecting with, right? So I so appreciate that you shared that. And also you talked about the idea of persistence, and you're right. It's your right. It's your child, right? So if there's things that you want to know, or your things that you are concerned about, it's your right to ask. And you're right. Sometimes it might not be an easy road. Maybe you'll, hit roadblocks, but because your child, you send your best to the school space. So your child is important. You have every right to know and have your questions answered. So that persistence, I appreciate that you brought that into the space, because sometimes it might not be a direct answer. You're right. Or maybe you face roadback blocks in terms of getting to whatever the question is, that the answer that you're looking for. The other thing that I noticed or that I wanted to kind of highlight that you said is the idea that it's not necessarily always going to be a easy route or a perfect road to get to the end, but the idea that your child is important enough to stay the course. And so I thank you anyways for all of your comments. And I saw that Jeanette, it flashed quickly, Jeanette, but I saw that Jeanette
Thank you.
something about she 100% agreed with what you said as well. Yeah. So thank you for that. That was a lot of great information.
A lot of great tips. I saw Keisha also had the hand clap. I think that I think sometimes the idea is that not to necessarily give up, but definitely continue to be persistent. And I love that that Neil, you talked about the lines of communication, starting with building your relationship and the communication with the teacher first, and then moving, I guess, towards different avenues for additional support, like the administrator. And I think you said your trustee. So I think that's really a good piece of advice, to really start with the classroom teacher and working in partnership. I think that's important as well. Thank you for your comments, Neil. And I hope that the others who are on our chat today were inspired to hear all the different ways in which you can continue. And I can say from a parent perspective that connecting with parents has been a lifeline for me for communication in the classroom, and just in general of how to support others as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so what we also wanted to share with you, actually, I just wanted to double check that we didn't miss anyone. Did anyone else want to share? No? Okay. So what we wanted to share, and this is not an exhaustive list, but just some additional ideas that we're suggesting that might require some reimagining, what partnerships can look like. And so similar to what Neil was saying, like it's not, doesn't necessarily have to be a one size fits all. There's many different possibilities of how this could look. And really the end goal in these partnerships is positive impact for your child or your children and their overall well-being and success. And a lot of this involves using opportunities to communicate between home and school to build and maintain relationships. So just if you notice on this screen, there are just some partnership opportunities, and then we were outlining just some possible impacts and benefits. So for example, participating in school council, which Neil mentioned. So benefits such as your voice being heard, creating a space for representation and decision-making. And I'm not going to read through word for word because you'll also get a copy from of this, but I'll just highlight a few. Report card interviews. I know that that for elementary students that just passed, but for high school, that's, I believe, coming up next week. So if, for example, the times that you're given aren't working, you do have the opportunity and the option to see if there's other times available or other ways that you can communicate. Maybe it might be online, maybe it might be a phone call. So I think just making sure that you see if there's other ways that you can communicate, especially if, as Neil mentioned, there's some roadblocks, right? There's only these set times offered, but they don't work for you. So then what other options might there be available to explore? And really that's beneficial because if you are able to connect, that gives you the opportunity to keep updated in terms of your child's progress, and you can ask questions. And I would highly suggest bring your child with you. I know as a classroom teacher, that was one of my requirements, that the students did come along, because I feel it's so important for us to have a conversation and for students' input, my input, families' input as well, so that there's a clearer understanding of the bigger picture. And then the other thing that I will also highlight, newsletters. So, and Neil, you mentioned the idea that the fact that, yeah, sometimes it's not translated in the correct language. And that's an important access point, right? And so that if I would highly suggest, and I don't know that it'll always be addressed, but if you do notice that, even communicating that with your parent and caregiver community worker, PCCEW, or even the administration or a teacher at the school that might be able to relay that information, so that, because that is a huge disadvantage, especially if you're not able to get the information in a language that you can read, that means that access point is cut off, right? So I thank you for highlighting that, Neil, because that was something I didn't actually realize. So you've kind of made me aware in that regard.
I agree as well. I think there is Google Translate is a great tool, but it doesn't always translate 100% or with accuracy. So that's
No,
something.
please, sorry to interrupt here. Google Translate is not a good tools for I'm not gonna say unknown. Let's say at least for other than English, French, Spanish, or Chinese, probably do not use Google Translate, because I try to use it for Arabic, Hindi, Bengali, and what else? A few other uncommon, let's say Vietnamese too. It created, because I have to create, I also serve diverse community, even the Korean. So when I translate my slide to them, I have friend whom I show that did it interpret my topics. They said, oh no, it's horrible.
Okay.
So please, yes, it give you the sense, but it miss the accuracy, and there is a lot of scope for misinterpretation or any, it may confuse some people.
Yeah.
Yes, some people will may have understanding, but it will confuse people. Thanks.
Yeah. No, I
So
thank you.
I agree with you as well, Neil, really quickly. We're gonna share some information in the chat as well. But I agree with you, Neil, because even my French, it is not translated correctly either. So I think while it was a tool that was used to initially translate, it cannot really interpret the way in which having a live interpreter or somebody who actually speaks the language is able to go through a document. It does not do it like one for one. Even like grammar and those pieces are not always accurate. So it is best to have someone, like you said, your friend, who went over the document with the able to correct and really highlight the issues that Google Translate will not catch. So in the chat, however, we have shared some information with you in how to for parent reps and information and how to get involved in your PIAC, and as well as how to contact for any working groups, or some groups are open to participation in the TDSB. So I think that would be some helpful information. So hopefully those links are able to open for you for additional support. Thank you. So in the previous slide, we mentioned that the goal of partnerships is to have a positive impact on our students overall well-being and success, We want to share this short video to highlight an example of how, when you don't have a say in your own story, that someone else will tell it for you. The knowledge and experiences that you bring of your communities may not always be present in your child's learning. If you have a seat at the table, so to speak, it provides the opportunity for you to voice some of the concerns about what your child is learning and how they are learning in terms of the kinds of questions you may choose to ask their teacher. So as you reflect on this possible erasure, how it impacts our lives, think about how you see the manifestation in mainstream society, your community, and your children's education. The video from the Ontario Black History Society, titled Blacked Out History, highlights the limited information which is shared in Canadian textbooks about the contributions of Black people in Canada's history. And I want you to think about your immediate response to this video and consider the text that, such as the one, may have on your child's learning experience and education. What does it look like when your child sees themselves and others represented positively in a text, and by extension within the education system? So as we were talking at the beginning of our presentation, thinking about truth and reconciliation and thinking about how we are able to incorporate the ways in which the Indigenous ways of learning and knowing are incorporated in our educational system, making sure that all voices are included and heard. So I would like you to take an opportunity and just think about how the learning impacts your own child daily when they see themselves represented and in their learning. They're all muted. Sorry, as I don't properly unmute my microphone.
So I just wanted to just kind of jump back to the video and kind of connecting to some of the things that that Neil had mentioned, just in terms of it really resonated when you talked about, you know, having a voice in your child's education and having to be persistent. And so when I think of this video, what I reflect on is that idea of how do we ensure that if there is erasure that we see, for example, because really one of the goals of education is also to have students work with each other, work with other groups of people that maybe are different and similar to them as well. And so how do we make sure that when we have a concern that maybe the learning that our children are doing is not connecting with them, or not connecting with their interests, or not connecting with, or they're not understanding it in a way that supports them? How do we reach out and engage in those conversations with educators to say, you know what, I think that something can be added, or I think that something's missing, or I don't understand what's happening here, or I'm having my child is having trouble with this particular content. So it's those kind of things that we're thinking of. How do we or where do we see that opportunity for parents and caregivers to have that voice? And we want to share the idea that you do have a voice, and we want to make sure that you understand that it's something that is, regardless of whether you are feeling the pushback, it's your right. And so to continue advocating, to continue asking, to continue to, you know, create those opportunities where they come up for your child to also their best interest to also be put to the forefront. Okay, so Tisha, I think we're moving to the, yeah.
So, Neil and Jeanette, sorry, both of you have highlighted great ways to build relationships within your child or children's school. So we're just going to give you a few examples here. I'm probably not going to read all of the examples, but be visible in saying hi and sending an email, establishing relationships with parents and caregivers and teachers. So traditionally, before the CSWs were, before the CSWs have recently changed their names, which is the community support workers are now parent, caregivers, and community engagement workers. So this acronym here was once the CSWs, and they are a great way to build relationships between your school, the community, the larger community, and the school community. So that is an access that a excellent resource for you to access to support you in building those relationships, especially in the extension of the larger school community. Forming a network with other parents and caregivers. Neil highlighted that so well when he was discussing it previously about being able to connect with others and sharing ideas and even sharing avenues. I'm finding that particularly helpful for myself this year, navigating my own journey with my child. And helping others. I think we have to really think about how some of us are fortunate to either know the system a lot better or have better ideas and information on how to further support you in a way that is impactful and intentional for your family. And making sure that you're connecting with other family members and sharing information has been an excellent way of how I've been able to even navigate my own journey as a parent in a school community. I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, thank you.
And
Nita,
Nita
yes,
as well helped.
yes, thank you. Yes, sorry, was it the CSW? Yes, it used to be a community support worker, yes. Yes, okay, thank you. So thank you. So we're just gonna, one of the things that we thought as Lorraine and I were thinking about this presentation is thinking about ways that we can actually have real life experiences. So thinking about scenarios to help support what steps you might take or how you might be able to support your child in the TDSB system. So we're going to go over a few scenarios, and we would love to hear from you, and maybe we can work through some of the ideas or answer any questions that you might have. So scenario one, we thought about a student coming from the Bahamas is told that they're being placed in ESL because they need to learn how to speak English. How might you respond? What questions might you have? And what might your next steps be? So this is the part where you can either answer in the chat if you're not comfortable.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
So a student coming from the Bahamas is told that they're being placed in ESL because they need to learn how to speak English. How might you, as a parent or caregiver, respond? What questions might you have? And what might your next steps be?
Sorry, this happened to my brother, and my mother had to advocate that many places in the Caribbean are English speaking. There are also types of Creole, French Creole, or whatnot, but Bahamas in particular, is English speaking. So the need for ESL was it wasn't necessary, and it was questioned why that was even thought of, because it would have been just common knowledge that it's not an English that it is an English speaking country. Um, so yeah, it took a lot. She had to go through right up until the superintendent in order to have him moved, and he actually skipped, I think, 2 grades once it was discussed. So I'm shocked if this is still an issue, because that was about like 10 years ago. So this, or maybe even 15. So yeah, this would be shocking if this is still happening in the
Uh,
TDSB.
uh, so I think probably you're finished. I don't want to cut you off. If you're done, I can add something to it.
Sorry, we just had Nita. I'm not sure if it's Nita or Netta.
Yes,
She just had her
Nita.
hand up after, and then we'll come back to you, Neil, if you don't mind. 'Cause
Okay,
Nita
no
put her
problem, no
hand-
problem. That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
is it
thanks.
Nita? Sorry, you
Yes.
put your hand up first.
Yes, it's me.
Okay,
Um,
sure. Thank you.
I'm a parent and also settlement counselor, and I work with some of the newcomer youth, and I have noticed that a lot of them, they miss their grade 12 graduation because they have to stay back and do the ESL even after doing the summer break, summer school and after school programs. So yes, we discussed this with guidance counselor, and we asked for the assessment or frequent assessment, but it's the TDSB policies that need to change, or probably it will take a few years, and those were the answers we were getting. So yes, there's still an issue even after 10 years, and probably we can look for some solutions. And our questions were starting from how frequently they will be doing the assessment, how soon he or she can get the ESL certificate to get admission in university, just so he or she doesn't have to do the grade 12 again. And he did a lot of paid learning coaching as well, just to get to the university admission in grade 12, but unfortunately they couldn't, and they had to stay there, waste their 1 year. So it's still an issue.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. Yes, definitely is still. And Neil, you wanted to share before we also share?
Yeah.
Sorry, actually, I'm a single parent, so I have to answer some of my daughter's things. She's at home today. So anyway, I couldn't even hear what Anita said. I'm sorry, probably I'm repeating. So what I was saying that uh, I don't know how the system works, so I don't want to comment. But my based on my, let's say, I saw that my daughter is helping somebody that she's born and raised here, and I actually moved this country long, long, long time ago. So, but when they still consider us, and we still can able to speak the same languages, but when somebody came from that specific geographic area, they call my daughter to help them because she is really known for her helping attitudes, as I'll say. So what we understand helping that family, that I don't know how they assess things. As soon as they probably see somebody coming from abroad, they consider them in an ASL. One thing. But it shouldn't be an ASL. It should be assessed based on their other skill too. Let's say, yes, if even the native speaking speaker, um, I'll say that competency level, even the in Ontario, different school board has different kind of competency level, and grade 9 from different level, different school will not gonna have same competency in English. So I don't know why they give it. Probably it's not the language itself. It's probably they expect that how are they master, how they using that languages. So I think there should be an assessment tool. There has to go through the assessment tool so that it's fair for everybody.
So Neil,
And even
oh, sorry, I thought you were finished. Sorry,
no, yeah,
my
no. I'm just saying that even if the assessment tool, probably if I send some grade 9 kids to that kind of assessment tools, I know that some of them may not perform very well. because I experience those kind of, because I also help in the community. I volunteer, I mentor kid going to the universities. So my experience is really, really diverse. I'll say not that great. So yeah, so I have no idea how they're doing it, but I think there should be specific tools and guidelines. And when after there's somebody in a council, I know that in primary school or middle school there is no guidance counselor or nobody there. I think that somebody has to give the parents a complete path. Why they have to go there, why they did this, and what the next, so they don't feel lost.
Mhm.
So
Thank
Neil,
you.
I really like, thank you for that, Neil. And I like that you highlighted, I feel like Neil, you're selling yourself short and saying that you don't know very much about the system, because you actually highlighted the importance of asking those questions, especially from a caregiver perspective. So I'm just gonna go on to the next slide just so
Please.
that we can discuss. So
And-
Monique
oh.
mentioned it as well, thinking about how I love that your parent, your mom, I think you said, advocated for your sibling through all the different channels, and he ended up skipping 2 grades. I think that advocacy part and being able to ask questions and thinking about what exactly is happening in terms of what assumptions are being made about the education that they've received in another country. What does it mean? What does ESL mean? And what does it mean for your child long term? How is it going to affect their later journey in the TDSB or in any educational system? Nita, you highlighted that so well, of asking those questions and being prepared to advocate, because it has affected some grade 12 students negatively, that they are not able to graduate with their peers.
Mhm.
So Neil, you highlighted also thinking about the competencies. What comprehension, how do we know, how do we address what comprehension the student has in translating to I guess, the Canadian school system? And what
Mhm.
assumptions and biases are we making when we are in another country? Learning has happened in another country. So I think when you as parents and caregivers, or we as parents and caregivers, what learning will my child need to have or is missing when they are taken out of class? I know that that is a question that some parents are asking, because some schools withdraw and have an ESL class, and others, the learning is embedded in the classroom. So the ESL teacher or itinerant will support your child in their day-to-day classes, especially in terms of language and math. Lorraine, feel free to jump in
Yeah, I
anytime.
just wanted to add too, yeah, because again, Monique, Nita and Neil, you really
Mhm.
highlighted some key points. And one of the things that I want to just bring back to is the idea of those networks, because Monique, to your point, like I know coming from a West Indian background, for example, coming to Canada, the idea was, okay, the teacher always knows best and they have my child's best interest. I'm not saying they don't, but it's asking those questions, right? Because it is your right to ask. And if anything, that's kind of the one thing that I just want to reiterating. It's your right. And had your mom, not taken that stand to say, well, no, this is not making sense. Bahamas, the place that you're coming from, is an English speaking country. How is this possible? And so I wanted to connect back to what Neil was talking about with networks being so important, because sometimes you might not know the questions to ask, but you're able to share your knowledge with another family to say, no, you know what's happening is not okay. These are some of the questions that you might need to ask. So sometimes that might be your role, supporting someone else who might be going through something similar, but didn't know that it was not something that should be happening, kind of thing. So it's just bringing back the idea of working together with others as well, in terms of things that you might notice happening that shouldn't be happening. Okay. Oh, you know what? We might have to skip ahead, because I'm looking at the time. It's 1:19 and I don't want to, I know some
Oh, yeah,
people might have,
interest of time. So do you
yeah.
want to talk about just the additional support or the resources?
Sure,
These slides
sure.
will be shared. So the
Mhm.
best part is that while dialogue is amazing and we're able to connect with you, these slides will be shared.
Yeah. And so what we were thinking with this was just, in a perfect world, yeah, things go well. But, there's always times where, to Neil's point, that sometimes there's, the path that you take is you're hitting roadblocks. So what if you need additional support? So we thought we'd just compile a list of some other possibilities that could potentially be helpful. So it might be a teacher that you have a rapport with, whether it's in your own school, or maybe there's another school if you're traveling from, someplace within the city or another place, might be another teacher you might have a rapport with who you can have a conversation with and perhaps get some advice on next steps. Could be another parent or guardian that you trust. It could be the PCCEW, the Parent Caregiver Community Engagement Worker. Some schools have a graduation coach, and so that might be someone that you can connect with. It's not available in all schools, so I just want to caution that. So you might have to connect with even your admin just to see if there is a graduation coach if you're not sure. Could be a school social worker, school council representatives, your trustee. And we have a slide at the end that has a link so that you can find out who the trustee is in your area if you're not sure. Could be a PAC representative, a superintendent, and you obviously need to find out who yours is. But again, there's a list at the end. The UIEC, Urban Indigenous Education Center. We also have a link for the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement, and there's various resources there. And there could be connections through the TDSB Community Support Hub. And many of these, you'll see on the next slide, they're linked so that you can actually explore some of those further. But Tisha, I'll let you speak to some of those resources. And then, we can kind of trade off.
No
Sorry,
problem.
sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
have to leave, but I'm just wondering, do you know how I can advocate to change a policy at TDSB? Just to give you an example, let's say my daughter is in grade 7. She's not going to grade 9 right away, but I'm still trying to collect information. And then I'm surprised that she has to apply. And the application is lottery based. The problem is that I really attended a couple of open houses. And I'm surprised that kids are really got interested, enthusiastic, and hyper, and the parents have over expectation. They submitted those applications. And let's say I can give you a specific example for IB school. There is only 105 IB spot for Sir Wilfred Laurier School. And they don't know how many. Obviously, there are a lot of people apply for that one. But end of year 10, grade 9 and 10, 50% of the students drop that program. What happened? There's an empty seat. So what happened? Lottery doesn't justify. Yes, I know there's a lot of philosophy, equity, and a lot of things. I get it, that part. But I'm just saying you are just missing 50% of your potential. So there should be a great concept. Okay, they said no, there will be no testing. I really support admission test, but okay, now I get it that due to so many reasons, admission test should be there. But the student who is in doesn't get the even C grade, they are applying for those programs they're getting in, and even the A grade student cannot cope with that kind of intensive pressure.
Mhm.
Why they're enrolling and wasting money and everything? So I don't know why why TDSB is thinking that way. It really surprised me. So actually, that's what the reason I was speaking of which session I'll attend this time. I said, let's go and find it out whether I can get the resource, that how I can advocate or get the people on board to change that policy. Yes, that can be lottery. I get it. I was against that one. Okay, but at least there should be entry criteria. The people who is applying for tops or anything. Let's say I know that my friend kids went to the tops and a lot of kids drop out from that program too, because a lot of kids in there, they don't know even the mathematical the times table, and they are in tops program, who just
Mhm.
surprised me.
Mhm.
So why that ridiculous system is in place? It's
So,
very common sense. So
Mhm.
I really need help to understand and resources so that I can make the change. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for interrupting the whole session. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't interrupt at all. You
No.
offered some great information. So one thing I'll just say, well, two things. So Nicole Wu, thank you,
Yeah.
Nicole. So Nicole Wu
Thank you.
in
I
the
was about
chat
to say, yeah.
just put two possible resources just in terms of delegating at a TDSB meeting. So the whole process, there's a link there that Nicole added for you. So that could be an option that you take in terms of actually presenting some of the information that you just shared with us and your concerns. The other thing I just wanted to mention, just in terms of, I know part of the decision making in terms of changing how some of these specialized schools were the process. Part of it was because they were noticing that there was some bias in terms of students having access to the information just from a variety of spaces, variety of schools, and so it was very limiting in terms of who was actually applying. Now I know what you're mentioning is an entirely different concern, but I know that part of the reason for the shift was just to make sure that it was actually being offered to a wider volume of students, where it wasn't limited by, okay, maybe you have an IEP, so then you shouldn't apply. No, that shouldn't be a limiting factor, right? Because there's things that can be put in place to support. So I don't know if that helps, Neil, but I'm just giving you, I know what some of the decision making behind it was, but your concern is a bit different, and that's something that you can share through, for example, where Nicole shared that that's a possible option. And then on the bottom of this slide that's on the screen, there's actually a link that tells you also a process that you can take. So it goes through a step-by-step process that the TDSB recommends for any concerns that parents have. So I'm not sure if you can see the cursor. It's just above the TDSB logo at the bottom. So if you click on that link, it will take you to the process.
Okay.
Neil, are you still there?
Yes, but
okay.
yeah, I'm attending using my phone.
Okay.
Sorry, my eyesight is not very good.
Oh no, we're okay. So
So if you shared that link or your presentation slide somehow, so I'll really appreciate that.
yes, so that through the organizers, yeah, our presentation will, I believe it will be on the site. Yes, it will be shared.
Okay. Thank you.
And no problem. And Nicole, thank you very much for your feedback as well and sharing those links. Okay, so we have run over time and we want to honor your time. So we thank you so much. So this resource page, as we mentioned, has a lot of different links to different sites that you might choose to go to, just to either one, explore what further information is out there, but two, that offer information for parent guardian connections, parent guardian processes, sessions that might be available. For example, the PCCEW newsletter really has a lot of important information. Myself, I'm a parent, but I'm also a teacher. But as a parent within the TDSB, it's a newsletter that I often go through because it has a lot of useful information. And I don't know, I know we didn't have time for a Q&A per se, but if there's any lingering questions before we close, we would love to just address those.
There's also something I wanted to highlight, the translation services that again, these slides will be shared, so there's a link, but I can actually put it right here. Let's copy the link advice. The link, sorry. It's just like for proper translation, if you would like somebody to sit in on an interview, or if you need documents translated, the TDSB does offer that as a service as well for parents and caregivers. So I just added that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you all for coming and joining our session today. And again, these slides will be shared. So, and the links are connected to each one of, I'm realizing that my cursor is not showing the way it's showing for me, but each one of these pictures are screenshots, or I would say are pictures that have direct links to what we have shared with you today. So this is protecting and promoting human rights and addressing discrimination in our schools. It will directly take you to this document for your review, as well as thinking about our new multi-year strategic plan. It's 4 years, and it's about sharing how we as a TDSB are going to address supporting our students in belonging, well-being, achievement, thriving, and revitalization of our buildings. Thinking about all of these as parents and caregivers, this will links directly to the document so that you understand our goals as a school, as a district going forward. Here are links for the Center of Excellence for Black Student Achievement. There's links for urban Indigenous education centers, as well as the department that Lorraine and I both are part of, the Equity, Anti-Racism, and Anti-Oppression site is also linked. Great resources in how to advocate for inclusion and thinking of diversity and relevant cultural information for you and your child or children. And again, all of them are linked for your review. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. You too.
Does it just close for everyone?
Hello?